Why is it that Jewish people represent less than 0.2% of the world's population, yet they account for over 20% of Nobel Prize winners and a disproportionate number of the world's wealthiest entrepreneurs, investors, and business leaders? Is it genetics, luck, secret connections? No. It's something far more powerful, yet completely invisible to the untrained eye. It's not about money. It's about the mind that creates money. And for thousands of years, this knowledge has been hidden in plain sight, embedded in ancient Jewish wisdom that most people never truly understand. Right now, as you watch this video, there are two types of people in the world. The first type wakes up every day hoping things will change. They work hard, they save, they dream. But their financial reality stays the same year after year. They blame the economy, their job, their circumstances. They believe wealth is for other people, people born into it, people who got lucky, people who knew the right people. Then there's the second type, a much smaller group. They don't just work hard, they think differently. They see money not as a destination, but as a consequence, a result of a specific type of mind, a mind that has been cultivated, disciplined, and aligned with timeless spiritual laws. These people don't chase money. They create the conditions for money to flow naturally into their lives, and they do it again and again across generations. This second group has mastered something the first group has never been taught: the architecture of a millionaire mind. Not positive thinking, not manifestation, not luck, but a precise, ancient, and replicable system rooted in Jewish wisdom. A system that transforms the way you think, decide, and act with money. Here's what most people don't understand. Wealth is not random, it's not a lottery, it's not reserved for a chosen few. Wealth is the external reflection of an internal structure. The Talmud teaches that God does not multiply wishes, He multiplies processes. If your mind operates on scarcity, fear, and short-term thinking, your life will reflect that. If your mind operates on abundance, responsibility, and long-term vision, your life will reflect that too. You've been taught to believe that money is the problem. But money is never the problem. The problem is always the mind that holds the money. A poor mind will destroy a fortune. A millionaire mind will rebuild a fortune from nothing. This is why lottery winners go broke. This is why generational wealth is lost by the third generation. And this is why Jewish families, even after being stripped of everything throughout history, have rebuilt wealth over and over again. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal to you the exact mental framework that has allowed Jewish people to create, preserve, and multiply wealth across centuries. This is not theory. This is not motivational fluff. This is spiritual law, economic reality, and psychological truth woven together. You're about to discover why most people will never become wealthy, not because they don't work hard, but because they were never taught how to think like someone who creates wealth. And here's the most important part. You don't need to be Jewish to apply this. You don't need a fortune to start. You don't even need formal education. What you need is the willingness to dismantle the mental programming that has kept you poor and rebuild your mind according to principles that have stood the test of time. If you're ready to stop hoping for change and start creating it, subscribe to this channel right now. And in the comments below, tell me what country you're watching from. I want to know where this message is reaching. Because what I'm about to share with you is not just information, it's transformation. And by the end of this video, you'll never see money the same way again. Let me tell you the first illusion you need to shatter: the belief that wealth is about what you do rather than how you think. Most people spend their entire lives focused on action. They work more hours, they chase opportunities, they follow trends, they hustle, and yet they stay broke. Why? Because they're building on a broken foundation. They're planting seeds in poisoned soil. The Mishle says it clearly: as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Not as he wishes, not as he pretends, but as he truly deeply thinks. Your mind is not neutral. It's not a passive observer. Your mind is the architect of your reality. Every decision you make about money, whether to save or spend, invest or consume, delay gratification or indulge immediately, originates in a pattern of thought you've been running for years, maybe decades. And most people are running patterns that were programmed into them by parents who were broke, by schools that taught them to be employees, and by a culture that worships instant gratification. Here's the brutal truth. If you're not wealthy, it's because your mind has been programmed for poverty. Not by choice, not because you're lazy or stupid, but because you inherited mental frameworks that were designed to keep you small, safe, and dependent. The second illusion is that money is the goal. It's not. Money is a measurement. It measures the value you've created. It measures the problems you've solved. It measures the discipline you've cultivated. When you focus on money as the goal, you become desperate. Desperation repels opportunity. But when you focus on becoming the type of person who creates value, money becomes a natural byproduct. In Kabbalistic teaching, there's a principle of the vessel and the light. The light represents abundance, blessing, infinite flow. The vessel represents your capacity to receive and hold that flow. Most people spend their lives begging for more light, more money, more success, more fortune. But they never expand their vessel. They have a thimble, and they're asking for an ocean. And when the ocean comes, the thimble overflows and everything is lost. A millionaire mind is a large vessel. It's been expanded through discipline, through delayed gratification, through study, through failure, through humility. It can hold wealth without being corrupted by it. It can lose wealth without being destroyed by it. It can multiply wealth without becoming enslaved to it. The third illusion is that wealth is about opportunity. You've been told, if only I had the right opportunity, everything would change. That's a lie. Opportunities are everywhere. What's rare is the mind that can recognize them, evaluate them, and execute on them. A poor mind looks at an opportunity and sees risk. A millionaire mind looks at the same opportunity and sees leverage. Jewish wisdom teaches that the world operates on order, not chaos. There are laws, spiritual, economic, relational. When you align with these laws, you prosper. When you violate them, you suffer. You can't break these laws, you can only break yourself against them. And most people spend their entire lives unknowingly violating the very principles that would set them free. You were not born to be poor. Poverty is not your destiny, but poverty is your current reality, because poverty is your current mentality. And until you're willing to confront that, to dismantle the thoughts that have kept you stuck, to rebuild your mind from the foundation up, nothing will change. You'll keep spinning in the same cycle. Different job, same struggle. Different year, same financial stress. But here's the hope. The mind can be reprogrammed. It's not fixed. It's not permanent. The Talmud teaches that repentance, true transformation, is always possible. You can change, but you must be willing to see yourself clearly, without excuses, without blame. You must be willing to take full responsibility for your mental state. Because no one is coming to save you. No government, no lottery, no lucky break. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to think differently. Jewish wisdom begins with one foundational truth. You are not a victim. You are a creator. You have been given the gift of free will, and with that gift comes total responsibility for your life. In the Torah, the very first question God asks humanity is not, "What happened?" It's, "Where are you?" This is the question that echoes through all of Jewish teaching. Where are you? Not physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Are you taking responsibility for your condition, or are you hiding, blaming, justifying? The moment Adam sinned, he hid. When confronted, he blamed Eve. Eve blamed the serpent. This is the origin of poverty consciousness, the refusal to take ownership. And this pattern has repeated itself in every generation since. People blame their parents, their government, their economy, their education. They spend their entire lives pointing fingers while their potential withers. A millionaire mind begins with radical ownership. Not, "Things happened to me," but, "I created this. And if I created this, I can create something different." The second pillar of Jewish wisdom is the law of cause and effect, which the sages call midah keneged midah, measure for measure. The universe is not random. It's precise. Every action produces a corresponding reaction. Every seed produces a corresponding harvest. You don't plant apple seeds and get oranges. You don't plant weeds and get roses. Yet people plant seeds of laziness, procrastination, and victim mentality, and they wonder why their life looks the way it does. In Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hillel teaches, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? But if I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" This is the balance of the millionaire mind: self-reliance without selfishness, action without delay, responsibility without excuses. Third, Jewish teaching emphasizes long-term thinking over short-term gratification. The concept of planting for future generations is woven throughout the tradition. There's a story in the Talmud of an old man planting a carob tree. Someone asks him, "Why are you planting this? You'll never live to eat its fruit." The man replies, "Just as my ancestors planted for me, I plant for my children." This is the opposite of modern consumer culture, which screams, "Buy now, pay later. Live for today, you deserve it." That mentality is financial poison. It creates debt, dependency, and desperation. A millionaire mind thinks in decades, not days. It sacrifices today for a better tomorrow. It delays gratification because it understands that discipline today creates freedom tomorrow. Fourth, Jewish wisdom teaches that God multiplies processes, not prayers. You can pray for wealth all you want, but if you're not following the process, if you're not planting, watering, cultivating, there will be no harvest. Faith without works is dead, as the saying goes, and works without wisdom is exhausting. You need both. The wealthy Jewish families you've heard of, they didn't just work hard, they worked smart, they studied, they saved, they invested. They taught their children. They followed a process, generation after generation, and the process worked, not because of magic, not because of luck, but because the process was aligned with universal law. Finally, Jewish wisdom teaches that the mind must be guarded. In Hebrew, the phrase Shmirat Halev means guarding the heart. What you allow into your mind shapes your thoughts. Your thoughts shape your decisions. Your decisions shape your destiny. If you consume poverty content, complaining, gossip, victimhood, you will think poor. If you consume wisdom, discipline, and vision, you will think rich. This is why the study of Torah is central to Jewish life. It's not just religious, it's mental discipline. It's the daily practice of filling the mind with truth, with wisdom, with principles that elevate rather than degrade. A millionaire mind is not an accident. It's cultivated, daily, intentionally, relentlessly. Let me tell you about David. He was 32 years old, living in a small apartment in Brooklyn, working 60-hour weeks as a sales associate at a retail electronics store. Every month he made just enough to cover rent, food, and bills. There was nothing left over. No savings, no investments, no future. David wasn't lazy, he worked harder than most people he knew. But he was stuck, and the worst part was he didn't know why. He'd been raised by parents who taught him to work hard, stay out of trouble, and be grateful for what he had. They were good people, but they were also broke, and they'd passed their poverty mindset down to him without realizing it. Every time David thought about starting a business or investing in something, a voice in his head would whisper, "That's too risky. You could lose everything. Just keep your head down. Be safe." That voice had kept him poor for over a decade. One evening, after another exhausting shift, David sat on a subway bench and overheard two older men talking. One of them said something that stopped David cold. "The problem isn't that you don't have money. The problem is that you have a poor person's mind in a rich person's world." David felt something shift inside him. He didn't know who that man was, but the words pierced through years of conditioning. That night he couldn't sleep. He kept replaying that sentence over and over. The next day, David did something he'd never done before. He went to the library and asked for books on Jewish philosophy and wealth. The librarian handed him a copy of Pirkei Avot and a book on Talmudic business principles. David started reading, and for the first time in his life, he encountered ideas that challenged everything he believed. He read, "Who is rich? The one who is satisfied with his portion." At first, he thought it was just about being grateful, but as he dug deeper, he realized it was far more radical. It wasn't about accepting poverty. It was about mastering your desires so that money serves you rather than you serving money. He read another teaching. The world stands on three things: Torah, service, and acts of loving kindness. David realized he'd been living selfishly. He worked for himself, spent on himself, thought only of his own survival. He had no vision beyond his next paycheck. Then he found a passage that changed everything. Do not separate yourself from the community. David had been isolated. He had no mentors, no network, no one to learn from. He'd been trying to figure life out alone, and he was failing. So David made a decision. He would rebuild his mind. He would seek out people who thought differently. He would stop consuming garbage, mindless TV, complaining co-workers, negative news, and start consuming wisdom. He found a small synagogue in his neighborhood and started attending Shabbat services, not because he was suddenly religious, but because he wanted to be around people who valued something beyond instant gratification. He met an older man named Aaron, a retired business owner who had built and sold 3 successful companies. David asked Aaron if he could meet with him once a week to learn. Aaron agreed, but on one condition. I'll teach you, but you have to do exactly what I say. No excuses, no shortcuts. For the next year, David did exactly that. Aaron didn't teach him business tactics. He taught him how to think. He taught him patience. He taught him discipline. He taught him delayed gratification. He taught him the principle of investing before consuming. He taught him how to separate needs from wants. He taught him how to build systems instead of chasing results. Aaron told him, "You want to be rich? Stop thinking like someone who needs money and start thinking like someone who creates value. Figure out what problem you can solve, then solve it better than anyone else." David worked his retail job during the day, but at night he studied. He learned about investing, he learned about entrepreneurship, he learned about psychology and marketing. He saved every dollar he could, $5 here, $10 there. It wasn't much, but it was a start. After 8 months, David had saved $1,500. It was the most money he'd ever saved in his life. Aaron told him, "Now you're ready. Not because you have money, but because you've proven you can control your impulses." David used that money to start a small side business, buying undervalued electronics, refurbishing them and reselling them online. It was slow. The first month he made $50 profit. The second month, $120. By the 6th month, he was making more from his side business than his job. 2 years later, David quit his retail job. His business was generating over $6,000 a month. 3 years after that, he had hired employees and was pulling in over $20,000 a month in profit. By the time he turned 40, David was a millionaire. But here's what mattered most. David didn't change because he got lucky. He changed because his mind changed first. The money followed the mindset. And once he had the mindset, losing the money would no longer destroy him, because he knew how to rebuild it. So what is the secret of the Jewish millionaire mind? It's this: wealth is built internally before it manifests externally. Let me break that down. Most people think wealth is about tactics, what stock to buy, what business to start, what investment to make. And yes, tactics matter. But tactics are useless if your mind is programmed for poverty. You can give someone a winning lottery ticket, and if their mind is not prepared to hold wealth, they'll destroy it within a few years. This happens constantly. You've seen it. Lottery winners, athletes, entertainers. They make millions and they end up broke. Why? Because they never developed a millionaire mind. They got the money without the mental structure to sustain it. The vessel wasn't prepared for the light, and so the light destroyed the vessel. Jewish wisdom teaches that the inner world creates the outer world. In Kabbalah, this is expressed through the principle of as above, so below. Your external circumstances are a mirror of your internal state. If your internal state is chaotic, fearful, undisciplined, and short-sighted, your external life will reflect that. If your internal state is ordered, confident, disciplined, and visionary, your external life will reflect that too. This is why the Talmud places such emphasis on study, on discipline, on character development. It's not just moral teaching, it's economic reality. A person of weak character will make weak decisions. Weak decisions produce weak results. Over time, those weak results compound into a life of struggle. But a person of strong character, someone who can delay gratification, who can endure discomfort, who can think long-term, who can control their impulses, that person will make strong decisions. Strong decisions produce strong results, and over time, those results compound into wealth. Here's what most people miss. Becoming wealthy is not about doing one big thing. It's about doing small things consistently over a long period of time. It's about making the disciplined choice day after day after day, even when no one is watching, even when the results aren't immediate, even when it feels pointless. Jewish families understand this deeply. Wealth is not built in one generation. It's built across generations. A grandfather plants, a father waters, a son harvests, and then the son plants for his son. This is long-term thinking. This is generational vision. This is the millionaire mind. But here's why most people will never do this. It requires sacrifice. It requires humility. It requires admitting that you don't know what you're doing and that you need to learn. It requires shutting your mouth and opening your ears. It requires work without immediate reward, and modern culture has conditioned people to want everything now. Fast food, fast money, fast results. The millionaire mind rejects that entirely. It says, I will plant today, even if I don't eat until next year. I will learn today, even if I don't earn until next decade. I will build today, even if I don't benefit until the next generation. This is the secret. It's not complicated, but it's incredibly difficult, because it goes against every instinct of instant gratification that's been programmed into you since childhood. And that's exactly why so few people ever achieve it. Now let me give you 3 specific mental principles from Jewish wisdom that, if applied consistently, will transform your relationship with money. Principle 1. The principle of first fruits. In the Torah, the Jewish people were commanded to bring the first and best of their harvest as an offering. Not the leftovers, not what was convenient, the first and the best. This wasn't about religion, it was about psychology. It trained the mind to prioritize what matters most. Most people do the opposite. They spend first and save what's left over. They consume first and invest what remains. And what remains? Nothing. There's never anything left. So they stay broke month after month, year after year. A millionaire mind inverts this. It says, I pay myself first. Before rent, before food, before anything, I set aside money for my future. I invest first, I save first, I build first, and then I live on what's left. This is uncomfortable. It requires sacrifice. You might have to live in a smaller apartment. You might have to drive an older car. You might have to skip the vacation, but you're making a trade. Temporary discomfort for long-term freedom. The error most people make is thinking they'll start saving once they make more money. That's a lie. If you don't save on $30,000 a year, you won't save on $300,000 a year. The amount doesn't matter, the habit does. And the habit is formed when it's hard, not when it's easy. Over time, this principle compounds. The person who saves 10% of every paycheck for 20 years will be wealthier than the person who makes 3 times as much, but saves nothing. It's mathematics. It's discipline. It's the millionaire mind. Principle 2. The principle of value creation over value extraction. Jewish teaching emphasizes contribution. The Mishnah says, the world stands on 3 things: Torah, service, and acts of loving kindness. Notice what's not on that list: taking, hoarding, exploiting. A poverty mind is always asking, what can I get? How can I benefit? What's in it for me? A millionaire mind asks, what can I give? What problem can I solve? How can I serve? This isn't idealistic nonsense, this is economic law. Money flows toward value. If you create massive value, money will chase you. If you create no value, you'll chase money your entire life and never catch it. Look at every wealthy person you know or have heard of. What did they do? They solved a problem. They met a need. They created something people wanted. They didn't just work hard, they worked smart in service of others. The mistake most people make is thinking that caring about money and caring about people are opposites. They're not. The most successful businesses are the ones that genuinely serve their customers. The most successful people are the ones who genuinely add value to others' lives. When you shift your focus from, how do I make money, to, how do I create value, everything changes. You stop being needy. You stop being desperate. You become confident because you know that value always gets rewarded eventually. But here's the trap. You have to create value without demanding immediate payment. You have to plant seeds without knowing exactly when the harvest will come. This requires faith, it requires patience, it requires trust in the process, and most people can't do it. They want guarantees. They want certainty. They want to know the outcome before they take the risk. A millionaire mind doesn't need guarantees. It trusts the law of sowing and reaping. It knows that if you plant good seeds in good soil and you tend them faithfully, a harvest will come. It always does. Principle 3. The principle of discipline over desire. Pirkei Avot asks, who is mighty? And the answer is not the one who conquers nations. It's the one who conquers his own inclination. This is the foundation of the millionaire mind, self-control. Every day you are at war with yourself. Part of you wants to stay disciplined, to delay gratification, to build for the future. Another part of you wants to give in, to indulge, to satisfy the craving right now. Whichever side wins that battle determines the trajectory of your life. Poor people let desire win. They see something they want, and they buy it, even if they can't afford it. They feel like eating out, so they eat out, even though it drains their budget. They don't feel like working on their goals, so they binge Netflix instead. Their life is ruled by impulse. Rich people let discipline win. They feel the same desires, but they don't act on them. They pause, they think, they ask, is this aligned with my long-term vision, or is this just a short-term craving? And then they make the hard choice. This is exhausting at first. Your entire body will scream at you to give in. But over time, discipline becomes easier. It becomes a habit. And once it's a habit, it's no longer a battle, it's just who you are. The biggest mistake people make is thinking discipline is about deprivation. It's not. Discipline is about freedom. When you control your impulses, you control your life. When your impulses control you, you're a slave. You're enslaved to your cravings, your emotions, your circumstances. A millionaire mind is a free mind. It doesn't need the approval of others. It doesn't need the latest gadget. It doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's focused. It's clear. It's moving toward a vision that most people will never understand. And that's exactly why it wins. Now I'm going to tell you the principle that will separate those who actually become wealthy from those who just dream about it. It's the hardest principle. Most people reject it, and those who accept it struggle with it for years before they master it. Here it is. You must be willing to endure the invisible years. Let me explain. When you start building wealth, whether it's a business, an investment portfolio, a skill set, there's a long period where nothing seems to be happening. You're working, you're planting, you're learning, but there are no visible results, no applause, no recognition, no money, just effort. This is the valley, the wilderness, the test. And this is where 99% of people quit. They quit because they don't see immediate results. They quit because their friends are out having fun while they're grinding in silence. They quit because they start doubting whether any of this will ever work. They quit because the world rewards the loud and the flashy, and they're doing something quiet and slow. But here's the secret. The invisible years are where the foundation is built. In the Talmud, there's a teaching about a rabbi who spent 13 years hiding in a cave, studying Torah while the Roman government hunted him. 13 years, no progress, no comfort, just discipline and faith. But when he emerged, he was transformed. He became one of the greatest sages in history. Wealth works the same way. There's a compounding effect. At first, your efforts produce almost nothing. You save $100, it feels insignificant. You invest $500. It grows to $520. It feels pointless. You work on your business for a year. You make $3,000. It feels like a waste of time. But if you keep going, if you endure the invisible years, something magical happens. The compound effect kicks in. That $100 becomes $10,000. That business that made $3,000 in year 1 makes $30,000 in year 3, $50,000 in year 5, $200,000 in year 10. But you only get there if you don't quit during the invisible years. Here's the problem. We live in a culture of instant gratification. Social media shows you people getting rich overnight, influencers flashing their cars and watches, entrepreneurs claiming they made 6 figures in 6 months. And you start to believe that's normal. That's the standard, that if you're not rich within a year, something's wrong with you. That's a lie. Those people are either lying or they're showing you the highlight reel of a 10-year journey. Real wealth is built slowly, invisibly, quietly. While everyone else is partying, you're studying. While everyone else is spending, you're saving. While everyone else is seeking attention, you're seeking mastery. The Jewish concept of Hester Panim, the hiding of God's face, captures this perfectly. There are times when it feels like nothing is working, like your efforts are disappearing into a void, like you're alone in the dark. But the teaching says, even in the hiding, God is there. Even in the darkness, the process is working. You just can't see it yet. This is the hardest principle because it requires faith without evidence. It requires patience without guarantees. It requires you to keep going when every logical part of your brain is screaming at you to stop. But here's the truth. The people who push through the invisible years, they inherit the earth. They become the anomalies. They become the success stories. Not because they were smarter or luckier or more talented, but because they refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. So if you're in the invisible years right now, if you're working hard but seeing no results, don't stop. You're closer than you think. The harvest is coming, but only if you keep planting. So here's where you are right now. You've been given a choice. You can close this video and go back to the same thoughts, the same habits, the same financial reality you've always had. Or you can decide right now that you will rebuild your mind according to principles that have stood the test of 5,000 years. Imagine yourself 5 years from now. You've applied these principles. You've delayed gratification. You've invested in yourself. You've built systems. You've created value. You've endured the invisible years. And now you're standing in a completely different reality. You have savings. You have investments. You have options. You have peace. You're not rich because you got lucky. You're rich because you became the type of person who creates wealth. And because of that, even if you lost everything tomorrow, you could rebuild it. Because the real wealth isn't in your bank account, it's in your mind. Now imagine your children watching you. Imagine them learning not from your words, but from your example. They see you making disciplined choices. They see you reading instead of scrolling. They see you investing instead of consuming. They see you building instead of complaining. And without even realizing it, they're absorbing a millionaire mind. You're breaking the cycle of generational poverty. You're planting a tree whose shade you may never sit under, but your grandchildren will. This is the legacy of Jewish wisdom. It's not just about you, it's about the generations that come after you. It's about becoming the ancestor your descendants will be grateful for. So let me leave you with this blessing, adapted from the ancient Jewish tradition. May you have the courage to see yourself clearly. May you have the humility to learn from those who have gone before you. May you have the discipline to do what is hard when it is necessary. May you have the patience to endure the invisible years. And may you have the wisdom to build wealth not for yourself alone, but for the generations that will come after you. The secret of the Jewish millionaire mind is not a secret at all. It's been written down, taught, and passed on for thousands of years. The only question is, will you apply it? Will you do the work? Will you become the person who creates wealth instead of chasing it? The answer to that question will determine everything. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to this channel right now, because this is just the beginning. We're building a community of people who are committed to thinking differently, living intentionally, and creating wealth that lasts. Join us, and let's walk this path together.